The tallest roller coasters in the world.
Yeah, this is both scary and sad. A mother falling to her death while riding the Texas Giant roller coaster at Six Flags. There were people on the ride and in line who saw the whole thing.
The tragedy unfolded shortly before 7 p.m. last night. A mother falling from that coaster, her young son in the seat in front of her, and witnesses simply stunned and shaken by what they saw. This morning, authorities in Texas are searching for answers after a woman fell to her death from a 14-story amusement park roller coaster. On Friday night, the unidentified woman, along with her young son, was riding the Texas Giant roller coaster at Six Flags in Arlington, Texas. At 152 feet, it's billed as the tallest steel hybrid roller coaster in the world. Full of sharp turns and steep drops, Carmen Brown was next in line for the ride when she saw the woman tumble to her death.
It didn't hit me until we got back down to the bottom, and I said, like, she was no bigger than I was, like that could have been me, and then I lost it.
Others who were on the ride at the time took to Twitter. One man wrote, "Literally just witnessed someone fly off of the Texas Giant 2 seats in front of me." In another tweet, he points to a possible cause. Restraint came undone, coaster turned, and she was gone. Investigators did not comment on the ride's restraint system, but say this is not a criminal investigation. Park officials have not released any details about what caused the tragedy, but released this statement. Since the safety of our guests and employees is our #1 priority, that section of the park has been temporarily closed. Another passenger who was just 2 cars in front of the victim says it was the fright of his life.
Other families was crying, screaming, and looking for their families. They didn't know what was happening. They just heard that someone fallen down from the roller coaster. So in that moment, it was like a panic.
Rosa Esparza had just gotten a restraint checked on the new Texas Giant at Six Flags over Texas. The ride operator assured her that the restraint was fully locked after double checking the system to ensure that it was showing on the indicator light that that restraint was locked and in place. As she was exiting out, she probably noticed that the restraint was a little bit loose, and as she headed up the lift hill, she noticed that it probably tightened up a little bit due to the fact that gravity was pushing down on the restraint, so nobody around her would have thought anything of it. As the train and as Rosa Esparza crested the top of this lift hill on the new Texas Giant, she would have noticed that the restraint was starting to come a little bit loose, and as soon as it crested and started descending on that first drop, that restraint would have came completely loose, resulting in Rosa Esparza falling to her death. As depicted from this illustration, you could see that the ride operator would have checked the restraints and verified everything, and that the rider could have noticed that it possibly was a little bit loose, but the indicator light showed that it was locked. And as it crested the top of that first lift hill and descended on the first drop, that restraint would have came loose, and Rosa Esparza falling out, resulting in her death. Here's the information from the Dallas News. The renovated Texas Giant started the day a year ago as one of the newest thrill rides at Six Flags over Texas, one of the country's best roller coasters by the night of July 19, 2013. The ride was closed for the foreseeable future and the family was devastated. Rosa Esparza, 52, had fallen out of the Giant to her death. The accident brought attention to Texas's handoff inspection system for the amusement rides and potential dangers faced by riders with larger body types. Although Esparza's death has not inspired major industry changes, some Texas legislators said reform is possible. Branson, who said the Esparza's family would not comment on the stories representing them in a lawsuit scheduled to go to trial early next year. The family is suing Six Flags and Gershlar Amusement Rides, which made the roller coaster trains. Both companies filed cross claims that cast blame on each other. Court filings claim there were frequent malfunction of the Giant's warning lights. Attorneys for Gershlar said the safety features were working properly. The Six Flags employee did not ensure that Esparza, who was a large woman, was properly fitted in the seat. Esparza was ejected about a minute into the ride during its first steep descent. According to a medical examination report, the Oak Cliff grandmother fell 75 feet and struck a support beam before landing on a tunnel roof. Hers was the second rider fatality in Six Flags history in Arkansas. A woman drowned in '99 when a raft on road rapids capsized. When the Giant reopened in September, it featured seatbelts and new pads on the lap bar. A test seat was also installed near the entrance of the ride to give riders a chance to determine if they could fit safely in the train. Ahmad Von Willow, an attorney representing Gershlaw, said that the client provided Six Flags with the test seat because of its storage by the park until after the accident. Whether this test seat would have prevented the accident is quite another darn question, he said. That's not a darn thing you can do to force Six Flags to use the Six Flags as an expert at operating amusement parks. They have to operate that park in a proper and safe manner. Sharon Parker, a Six Flags spokesman, said in an email that the test seat isn't a safety device. We provide test seats at some of our ride line entrances as a convenience to our guests so they do not have to wait in line and later learn at the loading station they cannot board the ride if they don't fit, she wrote. All riders are personally evaluated with the ride itself at each and every time. Von Waldo said he couldn't say for certain if a test seat would have made a difference, but he did dispute the notion that the post-accident changes made to the Giant improved safety. He said the lap bar is properly positioned. The rider is in no danger. Also, he said the train cannot leave the station if the lap bars aren't locked, no matter what the warning lights show. In one court filing, Six Flags employee said that during the disposition that Esparza's lap bar didn't appear to be properly secured, allowing their train to continue, apparently violated the park's if in doubt safety policy, according to court document. In another court filing, Six Flags described the Giant's train as a defective product that was unreasonably dangerous to design, manufacture, distribution, and promotion. We always are assessing and making enhancements to our rides and operations to further ensure safety for our guests and employees, Parker wrote this week in response to the question about the anniversary. In fact, we have to invest the greatest amount of our resources into our safety and maintenance programs. We have every incentive from a reputational, moral, and financial standpoint to ensure our parks are safe. Here's more information from CBS 11. This is just more information so you guys know everything about it. Shocking news. Witness accounts reveal what people saw moments before Rosa Esparza fell to her death from the Texas Giant at Six Flags over Texas. Arlington Esparza was killed. A newly released 92-page report by the Arlington Police Department revealed that employees had concerned about Esparza's restraint before the train took off. The employee told police Esparza's restraint was a little high, not as tight as it should be, the report said. The employee went to go check the control panel, which had an indicator light that lights up if her restraint is not properly secured. We went down the first turn and saw her fly out of her seat and came back down. By the second turn, I don't know if she hit her head or not, but the second turn, I saw her as she fell out. Justice Serrano told the police in the report. 2 seats in front of me, the woman's legs were pointing straight in the air. We took a left turn and I saw her fly to the right, Josh Fleek said in the report. Pictures released in the report show the empty row where Esparza once sat, where horrified witnesses looked on. So let's play it out from what we know from the news releases that I just read. So Rosa Esparza had her restraint checked by the ride operator. The ride operator had verified that the system was showing that it was locked, but the ride operator was unsure. Six Flags said that the ride operator at that point should have stopped the ride and had maintenance checked to make sure that that ride was showing the correct indicator lights. Also, reports showed that those indicator lights had been malfunctioning, but Six Flags ensured that those lights were operating correctly on that day. Gershlaw and Six Flags both filed countersuits claiming that neither was at fault, resulting in a bad relationship in the future between both companies. Rosa Esparza, heading up the lift hill, noticed probably that her restraint was a little loose but didn't think anything of it. Now, as that train is cresting the top of that lift hill, this is the least impact that you're going to have. Being from experience riding a bunch of roller coasters, you're going to experience a lot of G's and some ejector or floater air time as you're descending on this first drop. And this is the point right here where she would have fell out on the airtime hill and hit that tunnel that was on the right, which I'll show you again here in a second. By this time, at this point in the ride, everybody mostly had noticed that that rider had been missing. Here's a photo from Six Flags depicting exactly the location where she would have landed on top of. Now, to explain airtime is kind of when you feel a moment of weightlessness during our actual roller coaster ride. Usually it's done by a hill. That hill offers you either ejector, which would pop you right out of your seat like really fast and kind of forceful, or floater, which makes you feel like you're floating out. Now, either one of those possibly could have caused her to eject out of her seat onto the track below. Most likely it was probably ejector due to the force of it. However, the question remains on why that restraint came loose, and while neither party is taking blame for the actual incident.
those pockets, folks, or this ride will cost you a lot more than just the price of admission.
Guests are not allowed to ride with any loose articles, and even though we tell them we've lost over 3,000 items and over 2,500 have been cell phones.
This coaster has Cadillac Seville-themed cars with stadium seating and only a pull-down bar to keep riders from falling out.
I'm scared of the drop. It's so steep. Secure your loose articles and get ready.
I'm excited about the turns and the tunnels.
Can't wait for that drop, man. 79 degrees. Ooh.
That Travel Channel footage did show exactly what the old restraints were just pushed down, and then they changed that to have a seatbelt and add extra safety devices, kind of like the modern RMC restraints if you guys have been on the modern RMCs. This footage from Airtime Thrills shows how the first drop is into that airtime hill, into that wave turn, and like I said, after that first drop you have that airtime hill that was the spot before the wave turn that would have resulted in her ejecting from the actual seat and landing on a beam and landing on that tunnel below. These are the trains that were featured on the Gershlaw trains and Iron Rattler and also New Texas Giant. That was the same restraints that would have been used on the day of the incident. Obviously, those were modified by Six Flags and RMC and are no longer in place on those. And these are the modern day restraint systems that RMC does themselves. They also do their own train systems. They do not use Gershlaw anymore. Gershlaw does still have those trains and those restraints themselves for purchase if any park wants to do so, but RMC has perfected this, and it is a safe ride experience with multiple sensors and also shin guards and also a lap bar that securely fastens down without a fear of it coming up. And also there's a seat belt as a secondary restraint device to ensure future safety on all of the RMCs that are out there. What's your personal experience with New Texas Giant? Did you ride it before or after? Also, who do you think's at fault for this incident? Do you think the incident relies in fault of Six Flags or Gershlaw or both? Please let us know by commenting below. Also, we want to thank you again for watching the roller coaster accident video here on Midwest Coaster Fans, a new series on here. Thanks again for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share for future videos from Midwest Coaster Fans.